Hey guys, welcome to the Heart of David. Hope you guys are doing well today. Today's video is about the objective signs in our world that Christ's return is near. Pretty exciting topic, I think. To non-believers, not people who are scoffing and that type of stuff, family members and, people you love and people you try to show, you may kind of know them, but you want to show them objective signs. And, they may not call them objective signs themselves, but they are objective signs. They are things that can be measured. They are things that we can see or we can touch. And that's what people are looking for these days, right? But blessed are those who believe but don't see. It's not the purpose of this video. I wanted to share with you, unscripted. I haven't written down a whole thing of them. It probably would have been better that way, but I think it's also good to show you offhand all the things that I can think of. I also right now what I'm doing is I'm writing, this is just on a side note, I'm writing down in a Word document. I'm doing I guess you call it an article on what I believe the kingdom of heaven is going to be like. You guys will probably like it. I'm about a page in so far. Probably write a few pages anyways. That'll be coming soon enough. I'm also going to do a video something related to this. I'm having a lot of trouble with, I don't know until I speak and get on video, right? I don't know if you watched that miracle video the other day of that guy's throat. Scar tissue in his throat. Right in the moment of Psalm 103. He heals all diseases. Did you watch that? The guy's scar tissue disappeared while he was reading it. That's objective. That's objective. Because it shows in the end the doctor takes pictures now and before, and it's it's not swelling, it's scar tissue. Scar tissue adhesioning or whatever. Just scar tissue is, it's very, very hard to take down. Very unusual that it would. So before I went to bed last night, sometimes I veer off and, I'm like, okay, man, I've studied so much, I'm just going to let the videos run. Even watch stupid things just to see the stupid world we live in. You know how easy it is to become what you would call secondary trauma on the internet. And I think that is an objective sign of the end times. But, man, it's just like child abuse and man, it's like my thing is suggesting these things to me. I don't search them out. I see when I'm like, okay, I press it. I just want to see what this woman did. This one, another woman did. I'm not trying to point out women, but millstone, right? It's just so easy to become traumatized. Like I said, you can see murders, you can see and like you know who you are, when I say that this war, the Russian-Ukrainian war, remember they were brothers beforehand, eh? Remember at the beginning of that war, they're like, I know I'm going off topic, but this is an objective sign that at the beginning of the war, we're like, we don't want to fight each other. Remember, they would go to each side and they would take good care of them at the beginning. But then the propaganda takes over, and then they have, drones flying around. Man, That's the battlefield now. I think they did that in Iran. The people were scared that needed to be scared because there were little small drones going all over the place, just like Ukraine. Ukraine was the template. And there's people hiding in a trench. You got to be under the ground to hide away from these things. They drop a grenade or some type of explosive, even flamethrowers. And like you said, you know who you are. They put it to like, demonic music and, like this is a person's death or like a dismemberment. This is the time we live in. There must be thousands of those videos. That's just a... So that is an objective sign that we can watch horrendous violence on TV and easily become different people. Everyone has a different personality and a different type of toleration to their ability to withstand these things. Some people can be in war. People with ASPD, antisocial personality disorder. I'm not saying they're bad, okay? But I'm saying, there are all types of people in jobs, like fire departments, police, and they're good in those jobs. Anyways, I know I'm getting into psychology. The difference is if they had a bad childhood versus grew up in a good home or whatever, but oh man. A lot of different. It can be vicarious or secondary, which is just the difference is vicarious happens over a slower time, and I know that has to do with seeing people up close, but it's still the same thing. It could happen over a long period of time, or it could happen immediately. You could see something and be traumatized, and that is all over the internet. And you could both say that about porn, and you could say that about violence. You can't get those things out of your mind. My next one, listen to this. One of those videos I flipped to, I live in Canada, and per population we've taken the most immigrants of any nation, even the United States. Can you picture that? We had, I think, 38 million people, and we went up to like 41 in like just a few years or less. I'm going to paste, just give me a second. And our Indian people from India, the population is growing very rapidly. Another objective sign. You see in every country, they're for some reason putting in other people. It's not because of jobs. It's not for that reason. I've explained this more than a few times, but I'll say it very quickly. You're going to say, well, we need these people. No, we don't. And we never did. Because when you don't bring in so many, you start to have more money to go around. That's just a reality. All people are working. Everyone has a job. Then suddenly, inflation goes down and you start having more kids because you can afford it. And so they're shifting us. They're shifting our young kids. The jobs that are traditionally meant for our kids are all being taken. That's what's happening in Canada, and I'm sure it's happening in all the Western countries. And more, there's another objective sign. Whoever's behind this, whether you want to call it the World Economic Forum, Mark Carney, Justin Trudeau, those types, Gavin Newsom types, they want to destroy us. I don't go in any depth about this because I know there's someone behind it, and I don't care who. I'll only care when I know who that is for sure. And when you bring something up like this, they call you racist and they call you all sorts of things. We're being good enough to let these people in, and they're turning our system around on us, and they have no idea, because there comes a point when you're not kind anymore, and those people are not going to like it. And I think that's what they want. They want us to war. Ethnos, right? It's not just kingdom, it's these people within countries. Come out of her, my people, Revelation 18, right? When I think of that, come out of her, my people. You know, I had first studies a long time ago. I thought it was the church of Catholic Church. I don't think that's it at all. They're talking about Babylon, and I think it's just the system. The system is very wide. It's worldwide, and I think everyone understands it to a degree. When you look at the States, it's much more than all others. They're much higher consumption of everything. And lower education. I think it's lower education. If you see some of the IQs of people now, because of the internet. There's another objective sign, the internet. What I didn't say is this: I had a dream last night after watching all the people are taking the jobs and all the Walmarts and stuff, and like right by my house. It's so I don't want to get into that. And I had a dream that Canadians, it took place downtown. It was like a whole bunch of different blocks, and there was like a 2-mile long line of people lining up for like just a few jobs. And there was something to it that almost felt apocalyptic or even revelation-like. And I should have written it down when I got up to go to the bathroom, but I was too tired. I thought I should write this down, but then I can't remember exactly what it was about. Give me another second. I'm going to get into a whole bunch of different signs. So, man, I wear my glasses so much for reading. You know, on average, I probably read about 6 hours per day. And I just get used to it. It just feels clearer. For like walking and, you know, driving, I'm better without them, but it's just so much clearer. Hey, look at that guy. No, I'm just kidding. Never have that in mind, right? Where is that? Okay. You're always going to have, like, again, you're going to have people who are going to say, no, that's not true, it's been like this. And if you look at all the earthquakes, volcanoes, everything to do with destruction in those matters, you know, the earth moving suddenly. Have you ever watched mountain slides and stuff like that? Man, those are powerful events. It's not uncommon now to hear of volcanoes happening on a weekly basis. It may not be every week, but it's like they're coming in clusters. I spent my life like just waiting for awesome storms to come. I'd be in my garage smoking cigarettes when I did. I'm not a smoker anymore, but and I love storms. I was always like, I can't wait to see a tornado. I'm not kidding you. And like I'd be in the middle of them. I love them. And so I had a good ear for listening to world natural disasters. And you know, they say, oh, you know, there's so many more cameras today and stuff like that. Well, there's still people around who report these things. There may be more cameras. You may be seeing more. I don't think that's it. I think that's part of it, that you hear it more. So in terms of volcanoes, what constitutes like that it's more? So I remember, if you look in the scheme of time, we're in the last days, we're in the last hours. but ever since Christ came, things really picked up when the Industrial Revolution. And I think God is showing signs of tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, geomagnetic storms, and that's how he lets us know things. Of course it is. Tsunamis, just thunderstorms. And you can look at levels of the way things are. Heat. People just being destroyed by heat all over Europe and India and, man, like over Asia. These things weren't like this before to this degree. And of course a lot of people are going to argue with me. What's happening more with volcanoes isn't just, oh, the lava flows. These things are always, going up and down, up and down. I'm not talking about Hawaii type earthquake. I'm not talking about Hawaii that has constant flows that you can go and watch, or that may go every few weeks or every couple of years, Iceland, stuff like that. No. I'm talking about ones that blow their tops and ash goes all over the place for many kilometers up into the sky. So I remember it was at Tonga one first, and people believed that it was underestimated that that's what caused the warming in our atmosphere. It was huge. It put a massive amount of water vapor into the atmosphere. And I can't pretend to know exactly what happened at this moment. And so this is what this says. So yeah, I should go up here. A conversation I'm having with AI. I just said since 2022. I'm just starting at 2022. How many volcanoes have blown the tops and heaped ash high? I have to go even. Hunga Tonga, that was in 2021. Plumes into the 50 kilometers in plume height. One of the largest eruptions in the 21st century. So it was in the ocean. And there's another one they say that's going to go off any day off the west coast of America, northwest America, right off of Vancouver and Oregon. And that one's, I believe, a super volcano. So one in Russia, Bezymany, March, May, November 2022. Strong explosive ash plumes, multiple explosive events recorded. And then another one in Russia, April 11th, 2023, Kamchatka, 20 kilometers ash and plume, massive pyroclastic flows. And do you know, an 8-kilometer ash plume? Do you know, over a massive area, I'm talking like a huge area of land, huge, like more than 100 kilometers long. It left 6 inches of ash on the ground. Go look that up. Mount Ibu, Indonesia, and this, it doesn't have it here because another one went off, or maybe it is. 5-kilometer ash plume, June 1st, 2024. Mount Ruang, Indonesia, April 16th, 2024. It's big when a volcano blows its top. Ash plume, exact height unspecified. Then there's another one in Indonesia. 3 in Indonesia. Yeah, the ring of fire, right? But November 2024, June 17th, 2025. Mount Liwotobi, Laki, Indonesia. Wow, Indonesia, man. 8 kilometers into the sky. Deadly and disruptive. Think of the Iceland one that stopped all the planes for all that time. Philippines, Canlon, June 4th, 2024. Well, man, these ones are close. 5-kilometer ash. Mount Etna, and Mount Etna went off again, and it's not here. Mount Etna, July 15th, 2024. 6-kilometer plume. So it went off again. So there's obviously, there must be a number of ones missing from this. It was New Year's Day. I was sitting with my family in my basement. watching movies of when we were really young. And how old was I? So that's 3 hours, maybe 24. And I saw it on TV, almost live. The Indonesia tsunami. You know, like that was horrible. Remember the one in Japan, Fukushima? That one was really bad. Remember watching it wash over all the land and everything? Look at the things that are happening in the sky. We're having magnetic events. I could see the lights dimming when they're saying they're coming. Look at Portugal, Spain, the UK. They lost their power for like an entire day. That's pretty big when the whole system goes down. This is certainly God telling us stuff. There are signs in the sky. We're getting so many meteors. Listen to this. I was taking a walk with my brother, not last year, but the year, so not last summer, 2 summers ago. And we're in front of my building. And it's one thing to see a meteor streak across the sky at night. But we're speaking, and off to the left is a full moon. And as my brother's talking to me, I look over, and right across the full moon, it streaked across the sky like, you know, almost like a satellite. It was really, really, it was very quick. It was a meteor. I'm like, wow, I've never seen anything that crazy in the sky. And it may have been a week or two later, in the exact same spot. I was by myself looking at the moon, because I like looking at the moon in front of my building, and another one was in almost the same spot. Crazy. There are certainly a lot more meteors, and I mean a differentiation between satellites, because you can tell. You all know there's a lot of different signs, as I said, in the sun and the moon and the sky. It's exactly as it said in Luke, right? These very powerful sun flares, and no one can dispute that. And that's why the volcanoes are going off. That's why the earthquake swarms in the places we don't want it to be, like Yellowstone, like thousands, sometimes it's by the thousands there. And by the New Madrid fault line, these are happening because of the sun, because of the magnetism. You know, that's what I presume. This is scientific, and I believe it's true. I've seen more blood red moons, and I always looked at the sky, than I've ever seen in the last 5 years. I just have. I don't know, like, let me pace, because my abdomen, and I'm going to think of some more in another category. How about the speed of how things have advanced? You know, people getting into the Bible tend to, or like straight up believers, they tend not to look at, they look at now. Or, you know, people who don't, they say, well, look, you know, it's been like this for whatever amount of time. It has not been that long since the Industrial Revolution. It has not been. And, you know, through the horse, and then, you know, it was a horse forever, and then, you know, it goes from the steam engine to the electric engine, which we are at now, and other sources, hydrogen, right, whatever they're planning. Let's just say 200 years. 200 years of this. But we're at a point now where we're living in Atlantis, where you can put on a pair of goggles and you can touch dinosaurs and run with them, and there's going to be, like God says, like God said with Nimrod and Tower of Babel, there's nothing that they're not going to be able to do. And that's what's happening. It shall be like the days of Noah. You know, they can literally, hey, you know, like, I'm 20 years old, you know, by the time I'm 40, let's grow this beautiful woman. So by the time I'm 40, she'll have beautiful green eyes, beautiful face, blonde or red hair. You can do that. Or how about sex robots, which I'm sure are going to be a top seller. Forget about pornography on the internet. You're going to have a sex robot and women and men. How about that one? I switched from one to the other. Men are pulling away from women in the Western world for good reason, because they're entitled, they're brats. A lot of them are, because of what social media is doing to them and teaching them. I blame them and I don't. I feel sorry for people who grew up in this age. That's why I'm very grateful to have grown up before the internet came. By, you know, about 20 years. So I'm 46 years old. Do you know, and I didn't know this till I was in this, okay, my neighbor across the street, this is my best friend, okay? His dad invented the electronic blackboard. I'm not even kidding you. I remember being in their basement and they had something called an oscilloscope, and he had a board with all these different wires attached to it. I live by one of Canada's leading tech places. You know, it's almost like Silicon Valley, where they're like, in any case, I won't speak further on that, but I am. To show you how close things are to home. It didn't take long to speed up when it got to a certain point, did it? It was. I remember being in grade 6 and being on Icon. Do you remember that computer, Icon? It was a computer that you could write on. I forget the other things you could do, but it was like, you know, it was like a regular computer, and it had a roller on it. And yeah, I was just like, I can't remember exactly. I could look it up and find out, but the advancements then were whatever they were doing, like Bill Gates. It was Bill Gates who was one of the big guys, right? And then the Macintosh computer. I forget who designed that. Was it Jobs? I don't know. But it, you know, pretty much went from there, and then different softwares, and I'm trying to think in my mind of another category. Oh, I can think of another category. So those things sped up quickly. They did they not? Computer chips. Do you know that? Remember people saying this often, that the guidance systems in the missiles, in the cruise missiles, were Nintendo chips. They were the same thing. You know, like the cartridge of a Nintendo game, of a regular Nintendo game. You know, you could look at it. You know, you push it into the console. Well, that board, that little thin chip board, that's what they use in. So like Saddam, against Saddam Hussein. I'm gonna take some water here and some food. You know, all the trouble. I always have trouble in my abdomen, man. I have more trouble than I know how to shake a stick at. But the kidney stone that I don't know if you can see all the trouble that I was having in my last 2 weeks anyways. It's made its way down to my bladder. And yesterday I said to myself, I think it's finishing this stone. I go through a lot of different stones, man. And actually, I believe I developed stones for one reason, the stress of being on camera. I'm not kidding you. It's just very stressful to stay in the same spot with my abdominal pain. All the stress builds up. And I said yesterday, I have a feeling that tomorrow it's going to be in my bladder area. I don't know if you've ever had a stone, but when it gets down to there, it's done. And all you can feel is like it's scraping. It's a strange feeling, man. I know I'm giving too much information, but I don't really have anything to hide about that. Yeah, let me pace for a second. You know, you see the trouble that I have, you know, with a lot of abdominal pain, and that miracle video, that guy's throat really got to me because I have a lot of trouble in my throat. I wish God could just take that away. Kind of forget what I was saying, but oh yeah, and no matter how much trouble you see me having here, like it could look really uncomfortable to you, but when I shut this video off, you know, I may be like, wow, man, that was tough or whatever, but when I start moving around, it may get better within 5 or 10 minutes. Go back to baseline. So let's look at, I know when everything started to get real bad. And do you know what people do who are brainwashing us? So when you look at 2020 and the Ukraine war, they traumatize you, right? They traumatize you. They make a crisis happen so they can come in and do their own changes as they want. Think of how easy that was. They could do it again. They could wipe all businesses out just by one more. But from that point, it was one trauma after the other. BLM, just all kinds of political turmoil, wars. We're going to take this away from you. We're going to implement that. The government takes control. You learn about this country, what's going on there, and over here, and over there. It's the internet that you're listening to. Just turn it off, and it goes away unless it affects you in your country. Before 2020, we were not traumatized. Not like, no. So what happens is they throw so many stones at you that you forget how things really began. And isn't that what trauma is? I have trauma in my life. And I've worked out my own trauma in my own life. And I'm studying it too. I actually just passed my class for it. I've taken 2 different classes that I've already passed for. And what can happen is, you know, people tend to want to bury that trauma, and they're like, what's wrong with my life? And then they forget that they actually did repress a memory because it was so uncomfortable for them that they did that you have to go back and heal that. But in any case, That's what they've done to you, to us. And it's called desensitization. And people who are young think that this is normal, like Generation Z. And I don't know if there's a generation since then. Did it start at Generation A? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Let's look. Did record keeping begin at Generation A? You know, because I'm Generation X, right at the end of Generation X. Come on, give me a better answer in that case. I'm getting really restless because my abdomen. So maybe after World War II or something? I don't know, they're not really telling me. So in any case, that's where we are today. And yeah, it's not giving me a sufficient answer. Guys, I also want you to put in the description box, not the description box, but in the comment section, write one sign after the other. So how about, so that's what they do to you. They make you feel like this is normal now, but it's not. Someone is in control of this. The question is who? Isn't that the big question? And you would think it would be the rich families of the earth, and it is. It can only be those who rule the media. Is it the prince of the power of the air? You know, a lot of people say yes, and they'll go to Ephesians. But you have to remember, someone is responsible. Never cut out the responsibility of that person. People. So there's an agenda, and it's by Satan, made by Satan's power, just like he powers the Antichrist. I don't know, but you think of all BLM, how about pride? Like, hey, you know, like, you're gay, you're a lesbian, you're bi, you're whatever it is, that's fine. You know, like, you know, I don't want that in my life, but, you know, you guys want to be accepted. I accept you for who you are. Why do you have to have prides in front of us? You know, like, I don't have a parade for who I am and who plans all the days, and they're throwing agendas at us to make us angry. I'm getting very uncomfortable. I'm going to have to take a break, guys. I simply think I'll just end it here, but you know, like the you look and you see that no one would even dare to imagine that there would be people on the side of the Palestinians who did what they did. But it is. And it's not just the migrants, the immigrants, the migrants that we brought in that are at them, aside from the people who are being paid to lead these by billionaires. No, they're college students, and I know they don't represent, you know, they don't even represent 1% of people who live in these countries. I saw a news story yesterday. This is starting to be a thing. 145 people stabbed with a needle that they give you. I don't know if they put Rohypnol, which is like a roofie, to women. There could have been hepatitis, HIV in that. This is what's happening. Riots in many different cities, you see them. Remember BLM? The people who ran BLM, the woman, she bought homes with that money? Like, you look like a fool. You are a fool. You bought a whole bunch of different houses with that $95 million. And people who were actually calm and intelligent will look at the stats of BLM and say, is it true that these stats are true? And they looked at the stats and they're not. I've seen the statistics. They're real stats. I specifically went out and searched for my own well-being. And I understand that there is injustices with black people. And I just took that course in that. Man, I've said it in this video, but like institutional racism and stuff like that, I do believe that does exist. But as far as cop on black crime, it's absolutely not. Anyways, guys, I'm going to stop here only because my abdomen, I'd like to go on. But I ask you, please add, yeah, that's 40 minutes. Add, they're endless, man. People, the way that people are changing. Or how about that the church is disappearing? How about that they're being taken over by mosques? They're changing churches into mosques. You look at Europe and churches really don't hardly even exist anymore. God bless the people who live there that feel the departure of the church and the stance of the big church, right? Like the Church of England and that type of stuff. And you're telling me we're not in the end? People are violent, they're vile, they're disgusting, they're greedy, they're inventors of evil. What is that proverb? I'm going to look up one proverb before I go. Man, this got me the other day and I'd seen it before. This will stick with you if you have an animal, or even not. Proverbs 12:10. I'm going to end this video. A righteous man cares for the needs of his animal, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. I don't know if that's what it really says. I'm going to have to look. That's just ChatGPT. I want to make sure that was correct because maybe I thought that wrong in my mind. Oh, don't do that or it's going to shut off. So, I thought it was different, but yeah, that's what it is. Oh, yeah, because there's more. Let's go to Proverbs 12. I'll just go to New King James Version. I'll start at verse 8. A man will be condemned according to his wisdom, but he who is of a perverse heart will be despised. Better is the one who is slighted, but has a servant, than he who honors himself and lacks bread. We know of those people. A righteous man regards the life of his animal, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. He who tills his land... Oh, where is it? Because it did show it as being more. Sorry. Go back. No, it's just further on. The godly cares for their animals. I'll go back. I don't know what version this is. Sorry, you have an ad blocker. Yeah, I'm just going to stop there. there it is, guys. I hope you know, this isn't really one, I guess, to enjoy, but in a way, yes, because you see the things that are happening in the world, and they're happening at quick speed, and you know, the way that it is right now is what's next. It's not what's next tomorrow. No, it's what's next. What's next? I'm just typing and I'll see something come up. That's the way it is. Breaking news story, right? Let's go to news stories to see what's there. Memphis, Vesuvius. Yeah, it's just a lot of bad stuff. God bless, guys.